Hello there. It is an overcast Monday here in Seoul. It's almost noon and it's actually a little chilly out here, a little cooler than I expected. My phone tells me it's 20 degrees Celsius right now. It feels a little cooler than that, but not complaining. I love that. I like it. And I've come to Namsan Town Apartments. I'm just outside the entrance to the Namsan Town Apartments. And I'm across the street here from the shopping center that belongs to the apartments. A lot of apartment complexes in Seoul have some kind of shopping center like this. This one actually has two of them. You got this one here and you've got one over on the other end. But I've come here today to answer a question because it's Q&A time. About a month ago, I invited you to email your questions to me, questions about Korea, at Q&A@myfromkorea.com, or to leave a question in the comments and let me know if you're asking it for the Q&A. And several of you took me up on that offer. And so I have replied to everyone who asked a question. Didn't have answers immediately for everybody, but I have since gathered those I couldn't answer immediately. And I've been saving the questions and the answers for this Q&A video. And so the first question I'm going to answer today can be demonstrated right inside this building. And I'll show you right now. Okay, so this little place is like a little mini ice cream utopia. Now they do have more stuff than just ice cream. You see, they got the chips and the candies and all of that, but it's pretty much the ice cream that everybody comes here for. And you can see that the stock is pretty low right now. And that's just because it's Monday. They sell a lot of ice cream on the weekends. Look, there's no staff here. There are no people. This is 100% self-service. You get the stuff you want, you come over here and you check out. And I'll tell you what, one day I came in here and there was a sign, a post-it like this, saying that the credit card reader was out of order. Please send money to the bank. And I came in here and there were 3 other people in here before me, and as they were leaving, they all stopped and they sent money to the bank. And when I left, I sent money to the bank. I love Korea. I love Korea. The reason I came in here is because I got a question, and it's one I didn't expect, about ice cream. What is your favorite Korean ice cream? And I answered with 3 of them because it was kind of hard to definitively pick one. There are a lot of them that I like. But these 3 I tend to buy more than the others. I can usually find all 3 of them here. Some other places in the area often don't have all of them. Sometimes I only have one of them. Unfortunately, because it's a Monday and the stock is so low because they sell so much on the weekends, they only have 2 of the ones I wanted to show you. So one of them, I'll just have to show you a picture of it. But yeah. Luckily, they do have the Tweji bar. Yeah, Tweji means pig, by the way. So that's why the little mascot is the pig. The crispy crunch ice bar. I love this. It's got the crispy coating on the outside, and you've got like a strawberry filling on the inside with the vanilla ice cream, and also there's a thin shell of chocolate around the ice cream. But yeah, I've been eating these for years. This was one of the first Korean ice creams I had. And there is another bar that they usually have over here. It's called the sangsang. And what it is it's a couple of fudge sticks. So that's another one of my favorites. It's a fudge-sicle, right? It's the 2, you get the 2 popsicle sticks with the fudge on them, and you can pull them apart. If you're lucky, you can get them nice and even so you can share them. But yeah, I love it. It's just a fudge-sicle, and it's called sangsang. And The reason I love the song is it tastes very similar to the fudgesicles I used to eat as a child. You know, if you forced me to pick one favorite of these three, it would probably be this one, but it's the Encho. And this one hasn't been around as long as the Teji bar and maybe the Song. I remember when my wife and I first discovered these, we were obsessed with them. But you get like a nutty chocolate shell with vanilla ice cream, and then you get this really hard chocolate right in the middle, and I love it. It tastes so good. That middle part is the best part.
결제가 완료되었습니다.
Yeah, this is good. I haven't eaten lunch yet. I didn't even eat breakfast. This is basically breakfast for me, but yeah, I don't care. It's good. And what I really like about these, it's not too sweet. The Teji bar is actually a little sweeter than this, and so I don't eat those as often as I used to, but this isn't as sweet as you would think it is, and that's one of the reasons I really like it. Okay, next question. Do you know many Westerners who have stayed in Korea for the long term and raised biracial kids in Korea? And yes, I do. I know quite a few, actually, some of whom are still here, and not just here in the city, but also out in the rural areas too. There are a lot of intercultural and interracial marriages out in the countryside, and that has prompted a lot of changes in the regulations around immigration and visas and that kind of thing. So for example, when I first got my permanent residency, I had to maintain my marriage visa for something like 5 years. Today, you only have to keep it for 2 years. So there are many people here raising biracial children. This year, I'm going to Busan. Any suggestions on where to go? Tourist attractions and hole-in-the-wall kind of places? It's actually 2 questions. And can you recommend or make a vlog about Busan? So the first time I went to Busan was like in 1992. It was the first big trip I took in Korea, and it was an adventure. And I will talk about that one day when I go to Busan for this channel, because I will go there and I will make a vlog. Probably more than one vlog, but it's not going to be anytime soon. So I will give you some links. I gave this person some links, but I'm going to put up a page on MikeFromKorea.com about Busan, and I will link to some vlogs I've seen, some travel vlogs from people who have visited Busan. One Pack Wanderers, I really love their stuff. I found their Korean videos a few months ago and just wound up subscribing and binging everything they've posted. Josh and Lisa, and any others that I've got to go through my YouTube history, and I will add links to all of those on a Busan page at my website. Yeah, Busan is completely different from the place I saw in the 90s, and I haven't been back since 2012 or 13, whenever it was I visited. But I do have some recommendations as far as the touristy places that I know and that I've visited, and I've gotten some recommendations from people who are more familiar with Busan than I am, and I will add a list of those to that page on my website. All right, so the next question, any tips on where to look or specific places to go for veg-friendly meals? And you know, I'm a voracious meat eater, so I don't typically pay attention to that kind of thing. But I have noticed that, you know, there are more restaurants these days with notices outside on their signs or their windows or whatever, saying that they're vegetarian friendly, vegan friendly, or they're a vegetarian restaurant. And I've noticed on some of the more international restaurants that I've been to, they often have vegetarian options on the menu. You know, if it's Korean food specifically that you're looking for, then you know there are a lot of options. There are several dishes that either are vegetarian or could be made vegetarian. You know, kimbap, bibimbap, those come to mind. So I will seek out more, and I will not restaurants but food, and I will put a list of them on my website at mikefromkorea.com. Some food options that are vegetarian or can be made vegetarian. But another option is, if you're into it, is Indian and Nepali food. And there are a lot of those restaurants around Seoul these days. And I've come here on my way to the other place I'm going. I stopped by here outside Dongdaemun Station, Gate 3, because this little alleyway back here used to be kind of the place to go for Indian and Nepali food. There are 3 restaurants here now that I see. I don't see any more. I think there used to be more. But this one right here, Everest, is really, really good. And this is one I can recommend. I haven't been here. It's on the 2nd floor. I haven't been here in a few years. You know, Indian and Nepali places always have vegetarian options, so you'll never be out of options there. I will put a page on my website, mikefromkorea.com, listing vegetarian and vegan options that I find. But I'll tell you, before even going there, just go to TripAdvisor, because TripAdvisor has thousands and thousands of listings of restaurants in Seoul, and you can filter them by, you know, which ones are vegetarian and vegan, and you'll just get a list of so many of them. And so you can get a good idea, you know, what people think of them by reading the reviews there too. So I think that's probably the best source. All right, so as I walk along the city wall, or just below it, which is one of my favorite things to do, even if you don't see it in my videos very often, have you lived in Seoul the whole time? You're the first expat that I've heard of living here this long. Well, I have not been in Seoul the whole time. I came to Korea in 1991, June 5th. That was the day I touched down. And we landed at Osan Air Base in Songtan and took a bus to Seoul, and I spent the day doing my in-processing. You know, I was in the Army, and they put me on another bus and sent me up to Camp Casey in Dongdaecheon, and that's where I spent my first 2 years. I was only supposed to be here a year, but I extended one more up there, and I was going to extend a third up there, but then I found out that the 2nd Infantry Division, which is the highest level unit to which I was assigned there, they had a regulation that you could only extend twice and then you had to leave. But the 18th Medical Command had no such regulation. So I was a medic. I was working in an aid station in a tank battalion. And so I started looking into how to transfer to 18th Medical Command for my 2nd extension so that I could potentially stay here indefinitely as a soldier. And so I managed to get a transfer to Yongsan, the military compound in Yongsan, and I started working in the emergency room there. Now, that was in June of 1993, and I have been here ever since. You know, I left the Army in '94 and stayed. So, yeah, 1993, so 31 years now in Seoul, 33 in country this June. Where's the time go? There are several people who I know who have been here, or know of, who have been here longer than I have. So, I mean, I guess we are a small group, but at least I'm not at the top of the pyramid yet. Give it time, I guess. Okay, next up is not a question, but a request. Please make a video about the Chuseok holiday. And Chuseok is what a lot of people call the Korean Thanksgiving. It's a kind of a harvest celebration, harvest festival. They also honor their ancestors. So this year, Chuseok on the Gregorian calendar falls in September. Mid-September, well, I guess 17th that week, I think. And so my wife and I will not be here during Chuseok. We are leaving Korea to go to the UK for 3 weeks. I've got a conference there that I organize every year. We used to do it in May, but then after COVID, we started doing it in August, but August is peak travel season and everything's expensive then. So we got lucky this year and were able to book the venue for September. And so then of course I found out that Chuseok falls on September. And so this is the first Chuseok that we're going to be out of the country. But I will film a video about Chuseok. One of the things that happens in preparation for Chuseok is that people go out and do maintenance on, you know, some of the graves of like parents and grandparents and that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know exactly yet how I'm going to approach it, but I will definitely be doing a video about Chuseok this year. It just won't be during Chuseok that I'm making it. And where can we go to enjoy some music and entertainment for the older people over 40 to 50 and up, like live jazz, R&B, soul, smooth trot, etc. So, did I just say soul for soul? Soul music? But yeah, so I struck out on the R&B and soul because everything I found is just, it's very much aimed at the young crowd. I wasn't able to find anything that was more smooth and mellow. As for the trot, smooth trot, I can't find anything related to that. Now I know some places where you can go to get trot, but a lot of that is going to be, you know, of the, you know, bounce up and down variety. So the one thing I did have some success with is the jazz, and I got several recommendations from people because I was clueless. I mean, the only 2 jazz bars really that I knew were All That Jazz in Itaewon, and I haven't been there in years and years and years. And there was a place called Once in a Blue Moon in Apgujeong, but that's been closed for a while now. And there was another bar, another jazz bar, whose name I can't recall, that was off over on the other side of Gyeongbok Palace, but it's gone now. So I was clueless on this, and most of the recommendations I got are really aimed at the young crowd. A lot of university age kids go there, and it seems like there's kind of a jazz, I don't want to call it a revival, but like an uptick in jazz appreciation among the younger generation these days. So that's kind of been interesting to learn about. And so I had to dig around, and I found a couple of places that seem to fit the bill. I haven't visited them yet, so I can't really, recommend them as such, but they are places to check out. I do plan to visit them though, because I like jazz, especially live jazz, and I like a mellow mood in a bar. So I am going to go check these places out eventually. One of them is called Garrison. It's over by Apgujeong Rodeo Station. And the other one is called Fabric in Hanamdong. And I found some videos on YouTube that somebody recorded of these bars, and they seem to fit the bill. So yeah, I will definitely go check them out, and I will put up a page on my website, mikefromkorea.com, link in the description to the jazz page. And I'm going to list all the recommendations I got, plus the 2 bars that I stumbled on. And as I visit these places, which I'm going to make it a mission to do, I will update that page with my thoughts on what I find. And I may bring my camera along, to some of these places when I visit. We'll see how it goes. I haven't been out for the nightlife in a while, so it'll be good to get out again. Now, I've kind of reached my destination almost. So before I get into the next question, look at this view. All right, so this next question, we're looking for an area in Seoul to stay that's north of the Han River, quieter, less commercial, and gives the feel of living in Seoul, but is not too far out and is close to transportation. So one of the first places that came to mind when I saw this question was this area I'm in right now. This is, we're not far from Hansong University, and we're very close to Hansong University Station. We've got the city wall behind us. You can see this is a highly residential area, not so commercial. And I can't say there are a lot of hotels around here. I don't know what the hotel situation is like. I didn't see any that jumped out at me on Google Maps, but there are a number of guest houses in the area. So this would be a good place for the guest houses. And one stop up on the blue line, on line 4, which Hansong University Station is on, is Songshin University, Women's University Station, which I visited that area in one of my favorite places videos. There are a number of hotels around that station, and it's within walking distance from here. And then right around the corner, you've got Haehwa Station, and that's also on line 4. And it's near a place called Daehakno, which is University Street, I guess. It's a popular hangout for the university students. I guess you get a lot of the Hansong University kids there, but people come there from all over the city. And so that's a busy place. But there are some quiet streets near there. And not far from there, you've got the street that goes by all the palaces and Anguk Station and all of that. So all of that stuff is in walking distance if you're, up for the walk. It's not that far of a walk, and just, a short subway ride if you're not up for the walk. So this is a wonderful little area to stay. You've got the city wall and the City Wall Trail, which goes this way toward Dongdaemun, and then it goes up north. I mean, it's kind of hidden in the neighborhoods back there, but you've got a lot of the hanok, the traditional houses over around Hansong University in the neighborhood back streets. You've got Haehwamun, which is a minor gate in the wall. I don't believe it's in its original location, but yeah, we saw that from up above just a minute ago. Yeah, this is a relatively quiet area, and it's close enough to downtown that you can walk, and you've got access to buses, but also line 4 on the subway. So another thing to recommend staying in this neighborhood, you can take, morning walks or evening walks along the stream here. It's very nice. You've got these nice little streets with the hanok that I mentioned. I love little alleys like this, and I think a lot of people do. And they're just, there's several of them in this area on both sides of the street. And on top of that, just around this particular alley, next to the stream here, this area, you've got a lot of restaurants, old restaurants, hole-in-the-wall restaurants, a lot of, Korean barbecue, fried chicken, just all kinds of stuff. So this would be, a great spot to come to for dinner every night if you're staying at a guest house in the area. So away from the main street, it's a really quiet neighborhood. Yeah, and there's this breeze blowing. Got this lovely view. Oh, I love coming through here. Yeah, and there are so many hanok around here, like this. Well, can you see it? There we go. And you can find them dotted all over the neighborhood. Some of them, I think, you might find some that are guest houses. And it looks like they're doing some maintenance to the wall. They're doing some maintenance to the Haehwamun, the gate too. So I was gonna go up and take you right under the gate there, but it's blocked off. So I think I can go up on the wall, and I'll go check that out in a minute. But I wanna show you the neighborhood a little bit. Now, I also recommended staying around Songshin Women's University Station. So, there are some proper hotels there. I think I mentioned that earlier. So you're in walking distance of this area here if you stay over that way. Over here, you're mostly going to find guest houses. And I recommended Unpyeonggu up around Yeonshine Station. I did a video about that not long ago. That's a good place to stay for the local feel. This has more of a semi-historical character to it, but up around Yeonshine Station, that just feels like, modern Seoul, kind of older modern Seoul, but still modern Seoul. And it doesn't have that historical flavor. But you're also on line 3 and line 6 at Yeonshine Station, and they'll get you anywhere in the city. And once the GTX opens, the Great Train Express, I believe it's called, you'll have direct access to Samsung Station in Gangnam, which I visited in the last video. I also suggested potentially Shinseodong Station. And I suggested that because Shinseodong is kind of nice. It's a residential area. And it's an area that's undergoing transformation. Not far from there, you can find all kinds of new construction where some of the older buildings are being torn down. And you're also not far from the stream that we were just at, further along. And you're within one stop, I think, or maybe 2 stops of Songshin Women's University Station on the LRT, the light rapid transit line, and not far from Dongmyo. I mean, it's one stop over from Dongmyo Station, and yeah, so that's a decent area to stay. You still got access to downtown. It's relatively quiet, not quite as quiet as this, but it's a decent place. And I also recommended Huegi, and that puts you close to Eastern Seoul. So I mean, there's a stream over there, and just across the stream, you've got Eastern Seoul, and that has a very different character than anywhere else. And there are some hotels around Huegi. I didn't see a lot of good options to stay in Eastern Seoul, but if you stay around Huegi, you're also close to Cheongnam-ni Station, which puts you right by the big market there. And but yeah, Eastern Seoul is really interesting to explore, I think. But you're still a short subway ride away from the downtown area. However, among all those places that I'm recommending, my pick, just because of the flavor of the neighborhood and its closeness to the palaces and all the other good stuff, is this area right here, if you can find a guest house around here. So I've got, two more questions now. One of them I forgot about. Being here 30 years, you must speak the language like a Korean. Did you go to classes at a university or just learn on the fly from relatives, etc.? I do not speak Korean like a native, unfortunately. Yeah, I've never studied beyond a very basic class that I took when I first got here on the Army base at the Education Center. And by the time I got into the class, I'd been in country about 2 months. And I already knew all the vocabulary they taught us in the class. And the only thing I really learned from that class is how to read. And what I used to do is I used to go into noraebang, what they call it's a singing room in English, we would call it, I guess. It's like a private karaoke space. And there was a song called Mannam, right? And it's a ballad, a really slow ballad. And I would get in there and I would turn the tempo down very, 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 very slow and just sing the song, reading the words on the bottom of the screen. And I would do that again and again and again, just that one song for an hour, right? And every time I was out and about off the base, signs, I'd try to read every sign I saw. And so I was always practicing my reading. And I didn't study because I didn't think I needed to, because I didn't think I'd be staying here so long, just one more year. Then when I really needed to study Korean, I didn't, because I was obsessed with learning how to program at the time. I was teaching myself how to program. And, I did other things. It wasn't so obsessive that it disrupted my life, but it precluded me from, pursuing other interests, even when they were in my interest, like learning how to study Korean. So as a consequence, yes, I did basically learn by communicating with relatives and other people, but I'm still not as fluent as I need to be. My grammar is broken. And every time I pull out a grammar book and start looking at it, I'm like, I know this. And so in terms of knowledge, vocabulary, I do need more knowledge. But in terms of grammar, I know it. I know most of it. And I just don't apply it because it's habit. I've just got to break the bad habits. And I've saved this one for last because it's one that I've asked myself many, many times over the years in different forms. And I'm not sure I have an answer for it. Not a concrete answer anyway. What was it about Korea that you chose to build your life here? Certainly your expat community provided support and the military got you into the country, but I would imagine there had to be something more than that to plant roots in a completely foreign place. What made it all worth it? And yeah, that's a question that inspires some really deep introspection, because there is no easy answer. You know, I can't remember a time when I ever made a conscious decision to stay here permanently, right? I never made a conscious decision not to go back to the States. It's just that one day it dawned on me, I've settled and I'm here and I'm part of the country, I'm part of the society. I'm not a citizen, but I'm a permanent resident and I belong here and I don't belong back in the States and I'm never going back. It's just, it wasn't a decision that I made so much as a realization that came to me. It's just that along the way, there was always another reason to stay one more year, right? Initially in the Army, I wasn't finished exploring the country. I wanted to see more and learn more and meet more people and go to more interesting places. So I wasn't ready to go home after a year. That, and I really didn't like the duty assignment I had gotten assigned to, which was Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, where I had gone to basic training. Didn't want to go there. So I think even if I hadn't been planning to extend already, that alone would have made me extend. But no, so that was, you know, the initial reason why I did my first extension and then my second. And it's why I decided to stay when I got out of the Army. When I met my wife, right before I met my wife, I was having this crisis. I might have mentioned this before, but I think every expat who stays here long term eventually goes through this point, this should I stay or should I go crisis. And I've seen a lot of people go. I was really considering going back to the States in '97, and then I met my wife, and the timing was just perfect because I had stopped going out. Not completely, but I had stopped going out most of the time. And one downside to that is that my roommate met Jackie Chan one night in a bar in Itaewon, shot pool with him. Could have been me, but I was home learning how to program. And yeah, not long after that, I met my wife, and one thing led to another. And when I think about it, I know I was on the verge of going back. I was leaning toward going back. And I cannot tell you at what point after I met my wife that I decided not to, that I decided to stay. And that's what I mean when I say I don't remember a conscious decision to stay. It's just I was considering going back, and then I met my wife, and then it just evaporated, right? It wasn't even a consideration anymore. It wasn't a decision. It's just the choice just vanished, right? The only possible answer to this is my wife, right? As I'm saying this, that's the answer. I was on the verge of leaving, I met her, and I stayed. So I think that's it. Can't get more deeper roots than that, I think. And more deeper, there we go. Good English, Mike. Yeah, so there was never a question, never a conversation about whether we should stay in Korea or go back to the States. We just stayed, and life just went on. And then one day, the realization came to me, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Thanks to all of you for all of your questions. You can keep sending them to me, Q&A@mikefromkorea.com, and I will keep accumulating them, and I will do another Q&A in the future once I have enough questions to do one. And you can also leave questions in the comments. If you explicitly mark it with a Q and a colon, prefix that to the question before you ask it, then I'll know you're targeting the Q&A. But I may just grab random questions now and then out of the comments if I think there's a good answer that everybody should see. And be sure to check the description below the video for links to my website, to some of the stuff I've talked about today. And you can check back periodically. You know, there's not a lot there right now, but I'm going to get more stuff over time. So check back periodically to see any updates I've made. If there's anything you're interested in there, like the jazz bars or, the recommendations about Busan and that kind of thing. So as always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, and thank you for subscribing. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.